I'm Ava Laura.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Black Leave America podcast, where we highlight holistic wellness, travel, mental health, and self-care through traveling outside of America to reconnect and rediscover who you are. It's time for us to leave any condition that disrupts our peace. Black Women Leave America opens your eyes and explores new ways of living, but more importantly, new ways of being. Because sometimes you have to leave in order to find yourself. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Black Women Leave America, the live edition, episode 29. So for our podcast listeners, you can always hop on over to YouTube so you can see us as well. And I am Ava Laura and my amazing co-host, Jessica, in the background. Hey. And, we're really excited about this episode, another edition of Talking to Amazing Women. You know, we've been doing a lot of reaction videos, which you all love, but we really love going back to our roots, so to speak, and interviewing some of these amazing Black women who have ventured off and moved abroad really for a better life. And so we're talking to an amazing woman today who is in Tulum, Mexico, yes. Which I'm sure you all, Mexico is a hot spot, particularly Tulum. You see a lot of retreats there now. It's become a very, touristy area, so to speak, everybody vacationing there. So we're going to talk to her about what it's actually like to live there. Right? Because, that's very different than just going on vacation. So yeah, let's
and we have pictures. So I'm excited because you guys get to see visuals of actually the location.
And you know what's funny? It's like, why didn't we do this sooner?
I literally went and Googled Tulum, Mexico as she was talking because I want to make sure I spell it right for the title of this video. And guess what? I was like, that's pretty.
That's beautiful.
That's so pretty. So I asked if she had some pictures and she was like, of course. So yay. So we are going to have her go through and show us exactly all the places that she has here. So I'm going to hand the mic back over to Ava Laura to do a proper just introduction. We'll have her introduce herself formally, but Ava Laura, take us away.
Yeah, so as I said, podcast listeners, you definitely want to hop on over to YouTube because then you get to see us and you get to see all the lovely pictures as well. Go ahead, if you're watching, listening, go ahead and subscribe, share, comment below, comment on the replay. We do respond to comments. I keep finding these old comments. I say that and now I go back and I'm like, oh my God, y'all really are commenting. So thank you for that. And some really amazing, really great questions, really great insights. So we appreciate that. We do go back and comment on those and, share this out. And of course, always sponsor an episode or two. Give us some coffee. We like coffee. And yeah, without further ado, we are going to introduce you to our guest today, Miss Sonia, and she's going to come on and she is going to introduce herself. Sonia, please tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit about you.
So I'm Sonia Belletti. I am a licensed clinical social worker and a life coach. My specialty is family therapy, and my coaching is focused on just helping women be more connected to themselves, women who have just gone through life feeling lost and they're like, wait a minute, something's not in alignment. So even though I say life coach, I'm really what I would say a soul alignment coach. I help people to be in connection with themselves, to be soul aligned and move and live in their purpose. In addition to that, I am mommy to twins, and I have 2 dogs, a big giant one, a Bernese Mountain Dog, a Pomeranian, and a cat that we adopted here in Mexico. And I love to read. I love to bake. I semi-mastered making croissants during the pandemic. So I am it's one of my thing. Now in Tulum, I'm known for my banana bread. So folks be calling on me to make banana bread all the time. Yes. So that's what that's the fun things. And I'm enjoying this new journey. It's been amazing.
It sounds like it. So how long have you been in Tulum?
I have been in Tulum for a year and a half.
Wow.
Yes, I moved with my family in June of 2022.
Okay. And what brought you there?
So, uh, in 2021, my twins it was going to be their 10th birthday. And, we were just kind of like coming out of the tail end of pandemic kind of life. And
Mhm.
we didn't want to have a party. So we've always had a like a pool party for them because they're July babies. And usually my family comes down, family comes and everybody celebrates. No one was coming that year. And so we were like, let's take a trip. And my husband and I always traveled with the intention of where we were going to move, when we retired, in the future, when the kids are raised off to college, doing their thing. And so we were looking at different places for where we were going to go for the kid's birthday. And we ended up landing on Tulum. And we got here. And I want to say maybe 3 days in the trip, we were like, I was like, I could do this forever.
Mhm.
And my husband was like, me too. And I was like, really? And I'm like, let's do it. And he was like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, why not? And that was it. And the funny thing is that we were not on the beach drinking margaritas. We were
Wow.
literally in traffic in the middle of town, like sweating our necks off, right? In our little rented car. So it was not like this, picture
Mhm. It wasn't
perfect.
paradise.
It was not like one of those. And I remember, like, in that moment, he was like, "Oh, I saw this real estate office," and we went in, and we literally spent most of the rest of our vacation just meeting with realtors and trying to and checking out a few properties. And we went back home and started the process of like selling our house and selling our things. Told the families that we were moving, and I'm going to say it was, yeah, 10 months later, we were here.
Wow. I love it. I love that. How long have you been married?
Let's see, 13 years this past August.
Okay. And what kind of work does your husband do?
So my husband has always been an entrepreneur. And so
Okay.
part of our plan when we were moving here was that we were going to get some land and do like a little mini resort. So we have the land. We just haven't done the little mini resort because building was just not in the budget in the way that we did. So we're moving slower. So, so he's going to be in investment. Has a background in architecture. So right now he just kind of like we have a property also that we have in town. So he's been renovating that and taking care of like just getting that together. And then we're just being patient because where we have our land, there's a lot of building that's happening there.
Mm.
And so we're trying to decide if we just want to be able to divide and sell the land or do any kind of development on it as well. So that's where we are.
You got options.
We have
Right. So
we have
I have a question around just financially, the difference between the two, right? Because it sounds like you moved pretty quickly and were able to get a place and secure, all those good things. So what's the price difference between buying a home there versus buying a home here? Or buying a
And where
home
were
where
you
you are
here?
versus where we are?
so when we last, so to answer all of the questions, so we were in Parkland. And so Parkland
Mhm.
is in, so it's in South Florida in Broward
Okay.
County. So if you think Fort Lauderdale, think about like 30 minutes
Mhm.
northwest of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
So for the last 5 years, we were in South Florida. We moved to the suburbs in Parkland, and it was, and this was the idea. We were doing the parenting thing because we had a home in Miami that we loved, like love, 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 and but we wanted different schooling options for our kids, and we moved to Parkland. And so to before I even launch into more of that, to answer the question that Jessica asked in terms of like the price difference, I would say that for if I think from what we sold our price to what we sold our house for, it was about a third of the price to purchase the place that we have here, and definitely less than that to purchase the land as
Yeah.
well. And for the land, it's want to say it's like something like 1.2 hectares, which is somewhere close to 5 acres.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is like, again, like I said, Tulum is the hot area right now. So, I'm sure the land deal is probably going to do, pretty well. Cause like you said, there's a lot of development right now because that's where
Yeah.
everyone's going.
So
And
can
the
you tell us
difference
like
also
prices?
is,
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say the difference also is that, I always say that unless you buy your house, not even if you buy your house completely cash in the US, you don't actually own your home
Right.
because you're just one bad year away from not paying the taxes, depending on where you're living, to lose that home. And, I remember when we got this property that we have now in town, like we were really celebrating because like we own it.
Wow.
And my kids thought we were crazy because like, oh my gosh, we have a home. And they're like, but we've always had a home. I'm like, no, like
Like we
this
actually
is
own this one.
this
Like
is
you can't give it
legacy.
away.
This is legacy,
Yeah.
right? Right. This is
Mm.
true legacy. Like you don't have to worry, like if something happens to us, as to whether or not you're going to have to pay a mortgage to be able to have a roof over your head.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about kind of price wise. Like I like numbers. Tell me kind of how.
Oh, you can get all up in my business,
No,
Jessica.
no, no, not your
Just kidding.
numbers.
No, I'm just messing.
Not
No,
your
it was,
numbers.
let's
Just what
just
the
say
going rate is.
it was under 300K. It
Nice.
was under 300,000.
Nice.
So, I think my question, and I know, a
Yeah.
lot of people she's asking because they're going to have questions, right? Because
Yes.
when people are moving, and I'm sure you discover because when you were researching, right? A lot of women that we talk to, a lot of women who watch this, they want to do it, but they're like,
Yes.
I have no idea how, like what is involved, right?
Got you.
And
Oh, no, I
so my
understand.
question is like, did you all have savings, right? Because you did move quickly and it
Yeah.
was really kind of a spur of the moment thing. Like you were inspired. And what I love is that you didn't just sit there and say, oh, that would be really cool if you actually did it,
You
right?
know,
So
yeah.
what did it take to do that? One, with a husband and with children. And did you all have savings that you could just make this move?
So we did have savings, and I also, part of making this move, I resigned from a job that I had worked as an
Oh,
executive director for, at that point, 17 and a half years.
okay.
And I was super fortunate that when I resigned, they were amazingly generous in giving me a severance package, which was like the equivalent of a year's salary. So like everything was in, when we talk about alignment, which is like my
Yeah.
favorite, one of my favorite words, everything was truly in alignment for us to be able to make the move. Selling our home that we've had for like 5 years. And at the time, like we really got in at a good point with selling our home
Mhm.
because home prices were growing crazy. We were
Yep.
still like literally got in on that tail end before the real estate started to level out, because it was the
Mhm.
suburbs and all those folks that were coming in from New York and California with the big
Mhm.
dollars that were like desperate to find home is in a nice suburban area.
Yep.
Like we got really lucky with our home, like just
I
in
love
terms of
it.
just being able to. So I think it was a combination for us of just true luck
Mhm.
and just divine intervention for us to be able to have a little bit more than just the regular funds to be able to move, right? Like when I resigned from my job, I did not expect to receive such a generous, actually nobody resigns from a job and gets a generous,
I was about to say, like, I mean, unless you
a
get
package
fired.
at all. you know but like I said, I'd been there for a while, and I also had been working and building my private practice,
Mhm.
during,
So you
also
were
during,
ready.
right. So I was ready. I was
Yep.
really ready. The kids were being homeschooled, like everything,
Okay.
was just in perfect alignment
Yeah.
and the right time. Um, and I think it was just an easy transition. Like I was already doing some work online. Um, wasn't sure what was going to be happening with the job. And so, the kids were homeschooled. Like and what's been the interesting part, I want to say, kind of like going back to Parkland when we made the decision to move this to the suburbs, because we were looking for this better life, this better sense of community. Because living in Miami, living in a neighborhood where every night you were hearing sirens, you're hearing
Oh yeah,
gunshots,
city.
all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff, like, the city living. So we moved to
Mhm.
the suburbs, which did not prove to be as calm as we thought.
Mm.
Like we moved, I want to say, like, the first 3 months we were there, they broke into our cars in the driveway. And within the first 6 months,
Suburbs?
yes, 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 yes. Like, the suburbs were the real ghetto. It was the real ghetto.
That is wild. I don't know if I've ever heard that before. In the suburbs.
No, yes, no, and then yes, definitely. And then 6 months after we were there, there was the Parkland school shooting, and I'm like racing down the street to go get my kids from school, and
And so that's
like,
why you started homeschooling them. And you had
actually,
said you
no,
actually didn't you
like
move
that wasn't even
towards a
why I
better
started
school system?
homeschooling. No, that was not even the catalyst for homeschooling, right? And it was hard trying to make a decision
Yeah.
to send them back. But the catalyst for homeschooling was that they, um, like all the other kids, they were doing online school.
Yeah.
And, at some point, as you know, Florida was kind of like leading the forefront of pandemic doesn't exist. Everybody needs to get back out in the world.
Sure were.
And they had a teacher who, um, it was a challenge. It was a super challenging. And they were sitting in front of the computer for 6 hours a day, and then I was
Mhm.
still spending 2 3 hours after, like, trying to get them to understand the things. So I started to be more observant and see what was going on. And I want to say during last that that first part of their fourth grade year, I was fighting with this woman all the time,
Mm.
and my kids were just like, they weren't enjoying learning. And
Yeah.
then one day, and typical parent, right? Typical parent raising brown kids. I'm like, look,
Mhm.
y'all got to deal with mean people. People gonna be mean, da 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 da. And then my kids were like, no, you don't understand. We understand that she's mean, but she's extra mean to the brown people.
Mm.
And my kids were two of the four Black kids in the class.
Okay.
So, I got on the phone with the other mothers, and one mother was like, oh yeah, I already pulled my kid out like 2 months ago.
Oh
Because
wow.
my daughter was doing school from home and leaving school crying because of this woman. And the other mother was like, oh yeah, she's been this way for a long time. Because my other kid was
Like
in her
that's just
class,
normal.
and she was talking about how if they're immigrants, not to offend them, but they need to go back to where they came from, and
Where
all
was she
sorts of
from?
mess.
Well, I shouldn't
Uh,
even say. I don't know where
yeah,
she.
she was from the suburbs.
I was,
Let's
because
just leave, let's
I'm
just leave it
like,
at
I'm
that.
sorry, but in Florida, there's a lot of other brown people too. I mean,
Uh, yeah, no, not in that neighborhood.
okay, I was
You
about to
know,
say, like, I would think you would be used to it. Just
no,
because, it's a
no,
lot of English and Spanish. But
no,
that was
no.
one of the holdouts.
Yes, that's a whole nother topic. But
But
so
I
yeah,
find that so interesting because that was one of the reasons you moved for the school system. And then you had this whole experience. And, you say luck.
yeah,
I would say really this was manifestation. Y'all moved for that experience. You just moved to the wrong place. And
we
God was like,
did.
we're going to course correct and send you to the correct place.
Amen. I love that reframe. I love that. No, I love that. And it was what was interesting as we were like making the transition for this move. And of course, while it felt aligned for us, we had our doubts. Like, the
Of
family moving to
course.
Mexico. And so my twins are boy, girl, and my daughter was super
Okay.
excited. My son was like, Mama, we gonna get kidnapped. I don't want to be kidnapped. And I'm like, kids, stop. Hearing it from the family and all,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. I
Yeah.
come from a Jamaican family. They're like, no. So there were like, we had our moments of doubts and things like that. But one of the things that we realized, just because we also did several trips in between when we first came and when we eventually moved.
So
right?
that's important. So you didn't just go there once and say we're gonna move and then
No,
go there 10 months later. So you actually made trips in
yes.
between.
We made trips, we did research, and because we were moving with our family, we also had
Yeah.
to, make sure we looked into the different kind of schools on one of our trips that we came, and like, we looked at different parts of Mexico. We
Okay.
decided that we wanted to stay on in the Yucatan Peninsula because we still have family stateside, and
Mm-hmm.
Miami is an hour flight away,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we wanted to make sure that it was easy for us to kind of get back to the
Yeah.
States if we needed to, because we have, well, not parents, but we both have our moms who are living, and
Okay.
they're older. So we wanted to make sure that we were close to them.
And are your
And
families both in Florida? Or they
my husband's family is, my family, they're spread out across
okay.
between New York and Georgia
Okay.
and Miami still. So, so we did do some trips, and we settled on the Yucatan Peninsula. So we actually, one of our trips, we toured like the different like major areas in the
Mhm.
Yucatan Peninsula. We looked at Playa, we looked at Cancun, we went to Merida, we did Progreso, Sisal, like we went and we kind of looked to just to
Really
see,
researched.
yes, what was the landscape and what just felt good for us. And
I was about to say, like, now, what were you looking for specifically?
we wanted we wanted a small town feel, but still having access to things.
Okay.
And we knew we wanted to be close to the ocean. We wanted to
Mm.
be close to the water. We didn't want to be in a situation. So, like, Merida is wonderful, beautiful, hot, but it's
Mhm.
45 minutes away from the beach.
Mhm.
And, when you've got to be able to do that trip, it's not easy.
Mm-mm.
So,
And why move to Mexico and not be near a beach?
exactly. And then, for us, like, Tulum was it. Tulum is developing, but
Mhm.
it still has a small town feel,
Okay.
but we're really close to the other things. Like, Playa del Carmen is like 35 to 40
Mhm.
minutes a day away. Well,
Mhm.
maybe for more normal drivers. I got a lead foot. So, for most folks, it's maybe 45 minutes or an hour away. And, Cancun is not too far away now. We have an airport here. And so we have like
I
the
saw
things that move.
that, and that's
Yeah.
new, right? Like, did you know that that was coming when you all
Yes.
started? Okay.
Yes. Yes. No, when we were doing all our scouting trips, they were talking about the train, they were talking about the
Mhm.
airport that's coming. We could also definitely see all the development that was happening in town.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah. And so what is it like living in Tulum? So we talked about that. Like I said, it's the hot destination right now, but of course, there's not a lot of, and I'm sure there's an expat community in Tulum as well, I'm
Mhm.
assuming.
Yes.
Because I
Yes.
know Playa del Carmen is huge, Mexico City. But what is it like living there? And you said you don't live in an expat area. So like what
No.
is that like living with, people who are actually, from there?
I like it. Like, one of the things that we were really intentional about, like when we were moving and wherever we move, and actually also whenever we travel, we
Mhm.
like to do more culturally immersive
Yeah.
travel. So we don't travel. I think probably the only place we traveled to and ended up staying on the resort was Panama. And that was because it was just, we couldn't figure out how to get around because everything was, all the roads were blocked off because of the canal. But that's another story.
Ah.
So we do what we like to call like culturally immersive travel. And so
Mhm.
for us, it was really intentional that if we came here, we weren't going to leave the US to
Mhm.
go and be with folks that were Europeans or North America. Well, Mexico is still North America, but or Americans, right?
Mhm.
We really wanted to make sure that it, like, if we were moving to Mexico, that we were going to be living and communing, just being in community with Mexican folks. Having a, like, I don't want to say other folks' experience is not authentic, but what to us felt like
Mhm.
an authentic experience. So we rented for the first year we were here, and we
Okay.
rented like, closer to, like, they call it the jungle. I mean, the house we were renting
Mhm.
was right on the highway, but in the back it was very jungly, but we were right next to a local community. And so,
Okay.
I remember like one of the first, in the first month we were there, like our neighbors who, they were Mexican, and they were just having a little barbecue right on the side of the road because that was their
Mhm.
front yard, and they invited us, and they had all the stuff on the grill, and we sat out there and just ate with them and drank and talked. Like they moved the table out, and it was just such a beautiful experience, just sitting down and
Mhm.
and talking with people. Got ate up by mosquitoes, but it was still fun.
I was about to say the jungle, yeah.
Yes, yes,
And it's not a resort, so the mosquitoes are gonna be out.
yes, yes. And and it was also the same thing for us, kind of like when we got this place in town, which also kind of happened by it wasn't even planned. It was not even a part of the plan. It just kind of happened that we, encountered this space and the people were eager to sell. And my husband is an amazing negotiator. you know, and yeah, and we're in a local community, right? So like there is a little corner store like probably about 50 yards away from my front door. And
Oh,
so,
wow. Do
you
you all
know,
speak Spanish?
my husband is fluent. I
Okay.
can survive. I'm getting there. I mean, I'm proud of myself. This week I was trying to tell somebody something and I was thinking in Spanish and I was like, ooh, this must be a new milestone.
That immersive experience, that'll do it.
Yes, and I was talking to somebody in English and I was like, and I was trying to tell them a product and I'm like, I'm thinking of the word in Spanish. What is the English word? So I was like, okay,
That's
girl.
awesome. What about your children? Are they learning Spanish? Or?
So I birthed Leos. My amazing, amazing daughter is a natural disruptor, and I love her. And I love that about her. But she's like, I refuse to learn Spanish. So she practices Japanese. She uses Duolingo to practice
Because
Japanese.
that makes sense, right? Right. Like, all
She said, y'all go to Mexico, I'm going to Japan. Okay.
Exactly.
right.
That's
My son, he speaks when he's with his friends, he definitely will try and he speaks a whole lot more. And but I do believe just what naturally happens for both of them is that they understand.
yeah.
Because when we're out at restaurants, someone will say like if like the waiter is repeating an order, my daughter will be like, that's not what I said. And I'll be like, I see you, girl.
Because they speak in Spanish, right? Like that again, you're in a local community, so I'm assuming they're not speaking English.
Well, I mean, so there are a lot of English speaking folks here.
Uh-huh.
And what I have actually learned is that the local community, once they see you making an effort, they've been super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I should probably, so my husband is Italian from Italy. So the first 2 weeks I was here, I was speaking to folks in Italian. I'm not fluent in Italian, but somehow those first 2 weeks I was fluent in Italian. And so I say that to say that so when I was now practicing my Spanish and I'm speaking to folks and I'm using the words that I would know, people were really great at just supporting and teaching me things, right? Because I was making an effort and they would make an effort to be able to understand what I was saying. And it still happens where, folks are teaching, they're still teaching me in a kind and gentle way because I'm not showing up with the expectation that they're supposed to adapt to me. I'm adapting to the environment that I chose to be in.
Absolutely.
And I think people respect that a lot. So yeah, that part of the language it's getting better over time. I mean, like as long as I can order some food, I'm good.
I mean, if people are willing to help out and we got all the apps and everything, now, so we can, like you said, you're surviving. It's way better than it was before when we had like no technology. And
yes.
Right. I have a question about your kids. How did they feel about
Yeah.
leaving and coming over? What age were they at the time? And then how did they feel about coming over to a brand new country?
So they were 10. They were going to be 11 that summer. Yeah. So they were 10. I think at first they were excited and then, but they're in that preteen stage. So they do still miss being in Florida. But I think really and truly what they miss is just like the access to a lot of things. And they're adapting, right? They're back in school. So they go to a school here. They go to a small private school. They're like 10 kids in their class. They teach
Oh,
them in
wow.
Spanish and in English. Um, and it was like trying to decide what to be able to do, because one of the drawbacks of living in Tulum with family is that Tulum is not exactly super kid friendly. They're
Mm.
getting there, right?
How
So
like so when you say it's not kid friendly, like what do you mean?
there's not a lot of things for kids to do.
Okay.
So, like say in Playa del Carmen, you can easily find dance classes and karate classes and doing things like that. And what I've noticed is like, especially kids of their age group, there's
Mhm.
a lot that happens for kids, I would say, between, like 0 to
The little kids.
7, right? For the
Mhm.
little kids, but or probably 0 to 5. There are a lot of littler kids here, but like for their age, that preteen age,
Mm.
there's not much. But I feel like that's universal, right? Like preteens kind of like fall out of the box, like between that age of 9 and like 13, 14, there's nothing really targeted towards them. But so that part has been kind of challenging for them.
Mm.
I agree
I was
with that. Yeah.
I mean, I was about to ask, right? Like in terms of friends, right? Because that's usually the thing with kids, like they don't want to leave their friends,
Mhm.
So how was that? And like you said, now too, maybe not even having as many activities. Like, do they still keep in touch with their friends? Has that been a big transition for them?
So, kind of going back to when I was talking about moving to Parkland, looking for this sense of community.
Hmm.
In the 5 years we were there, we never had it. And
Okay.
so, unfortunately for my kids, they didn't have any deep friendships that they were leaving. I think they had a couple of friends that were there. I know like my son's best friend had moved away even before we did, right?
Mm.
And what was also interesting, like their friends were always other Black kids, and there weren't that many in Parkland either. And so I have to say,
I
like,
understand that.
yes.
I
Yeah,
grew up in a white suburb and we were all each other's friends. It might have been 10 of us, but we were all each other's friends.
exactly. So, and yeah, and I think just being like spending like the last year and a half of like, that part of their life during the pandemic
Yeah,
where
that's true.
folks weren't always getting together. And if folks were getting together, they were doing so in their little cliques, I guess, for lack
Mhm.
of a better word.
Yep.
Um, so I think they're having a hard time, just like, actually not my son, my daughter, because
Mhm.
she's super shy and she's just kind of like, and we were talking about it the other day, and she's like, Mommy, I feel like I've lost my social skills.
It's
And
true. A lot of kids really have. Like my
yeah.
bonus kids, like we had to have a whole conversation. It was like, well, I don't know how to make friends.
Hmm.
And I was like, I don't ever remember having these conversations or these thoughts. You just made friends. But
Yeah.
we had a whole like, I don't know what to do. What do I say? How do I approach people? So it's real.
No,
Yeah.
it's a real thing. I think what's happening right now, with, you know, we blame social media for everything, but I think it is a huge part of it. Just like back in the day, everyone blamed the television, and then before that, everyone blamed the radio, right? So it's like that access to media.
Mhm.
But I 120%. First of all, I resonate so deeply with your schooling experience. I did the same. I went through the same similar thing
Mhm.
here in California with my daughter, where her teacher, and I'm just like, what is going on? What's the problem? And then having to get off of that 2-hour call or whatever it was, and then 3 hours of homework, 4 hours of homework, and she's just crying. She is, and this is my sweet little baby kid that hugs me every morning. This is the one that just has no issues, and she is just having so many problems, and she's overwhelmed. So oh my gosh, I was there with you. So it's interesting to hear that. Maybe we need another Zoom call another day, like how that impacted our kids
Yes.
across, because she's still traumatized from that.
Mhm.
And she deals with a lot of things because of that. And moving into the current conversation around friendships and having those social skills, I've found that my children are very, oh my gosh, yeah. What? That would be weird for me to go up and say hi. Why
Yes.
is that weird? Are
Crazy.
you kidding me?
It's
Why do you think that's
crazy.
weird?
No, it's so true.
And I think
I took them to meet like a friend, I think last year. And I
Mhm.
literally like as we were pulling up to the place, to the location, I was like, okay, we're not just going for smoothies. I planned a surprise play date for y'all.
Right.
they were mortified.
Mortified. But guess what? My daughter and the little, because it was another little girl, like
Mhm.
they're the best of friends. And
Yeah.
Right.
so they don't have like the same kind of social circle, right? Where they
Mhm.
have a lot of
Mhm.
other, folks to do play dates with, but they have a
Mhm.
small pocket of friends. So like even last
Right.
weekend, I had like a handful of kids over. We did a little barbecue with some friends,
Good.
and we made sure they invited their friends over. And then they had their little performance at like their winter performance from school, and their
Mhm.
friends walk. There's this place like I don't know if you want to call it like a food truck park, but like it's called Palma Central. It's every Tuesday night. Folks go. They do a salsa dancing class.
Oh, I love
And you
it.
can do salsa, and they have artisans that are out there selling jewelry and clothing and foods and things like that. And that's where they had their performance, and their friends walked and came and to support them, and they were just so overjoyed. You
You got
know,
your community.
Listen, I also have my community. Like I am a part of an amazing group of Black women here. Like, I think before we actually went live, we were
Mhm.
talking about, just like the different, like here people communicate in WhatsApp groups,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so like in a year and a half, I have built a stronger community in Mexico than in my, how many years did I live in? 18 years that I lived in South Florida.
Wow. Wow.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's interesting. That's one of the things that we talk about, right? Is that we tend to build stronger relationships and bonds outside of America, particularly, with other expats. But, most places tend to be more communal,
Mhm.
than America is. That is not our culture anymore. Everybody is so separated. People seem to be okay with not having friends or serious ties or relationships. We've definitely become sort of in our silos. We're
Yes.
used to not being with other family members and things like that, and so unfortunately it's become a part of the culture, not really having that support, whereas other cultures, right, in other places are very communal. And so even if we've kind of gotten to that American way, you end up becoming communal, right, because everybody else is.
No, it's true. And it's like, and I don't know what it is. There is like I feel like there's a hypervigilance. Like, and I was talking to someone about with someone about this the other day, and I was just talking about the fact that until I left the US, right, people would say like I have it together. I don't stress. I don't have anxieties around different things. I did not realize how much I was storing in my body. I did
Mm,
not realize how much relaxation I needed. I didn't realize
wow.
just how much tension was stored in my body that I no longer have. I can
Yeah.
I like I feel like there's just a space for me to just be, to actually be a human being instead of just doing all the time. And
Yeah.
but again, if someone had asked me this question 2 years ago,
Yeah.
they'll be like, no, I don't have any stress. I'm moving through life. I'm good.
Yeah.
You know,
How is your quality of life different now?
I am learning to survive and function with less. There is
Mm.
so much that I was not even like in aware of, like just again, like if I were to look at myself like back then, I'd be like, oh, I don't have a lot of things. And I remember preparing for the move, cleaning up my closet, right? Like my books are one of my things that I love. You see all my books behind me, and that's probably
Mhm.
like the most of stuff that I have. And I still have like a closet full of clothes that I moved here with. I don't even wear.
You
If I
don't
have
wear them.
30% of it,
Yeah.
I'd be telling you I'm lying.
It's
Put
true.
on the same things over and over.
Yeah.
It's nice and comfy, and
I
it's
think the
hot.
pandemic did that though.
Yeah. But listen, it's hot. The only reason why I have my hair straight now, like this is a little 1 2 week for the year because it's nice and fairly cool. Like, ooh, I can go blow dry, right? But it's hot.
Yeah.
And I
I
just
can't say that it's not hot here, but I understand.
yes. Well, you just want to be comfortable. And also too, like,
Yes.
going
Yes.
out, like yeah, most folks are walking around in like their bathing suits. Everybody's like,
Flip
I don't know. For
flops.
me, it's been a humbling experience. Yes, it's been a humbling experience learning to, like, if you were to look at my life before compared to now, I have
Mhm.
less, but I feel like I have more. I have
Mm.
time with my kids because the school they go to, they don't have homework. So we're not fighting over homework,
Mhm.
right? They get out of school
Wait a
at
minute, you said what now?
I'm not fighting over homework here in
no.
Maryland. They have very little homework now.
Oh no, wait a minute. Here in California, my fourth grade, my daughter that is in fourth grade, her teacher just said, "Oh, I'm going to give you guys more homework." I said, "More?"
And all of their
No.
stuff is online. So if we wanted, like, you can literally watch YouTube videos to learn what they're doing.
Yes.
They follow
And
that curriculum.
listen,
It's so easy. I was like, oh, I love this place.
no. I'm like, I have more time with my kids. And because I've learned to do more with less, I
Yeah.
don't, I work online, but I'm
Mhm.
able to just kind of like to be free with it. Like right now, like I have a 3 day work day. 3 day work week rather,
Mhm.
right? And it's not even like I'm working 8 hours a day on those 3 days. And even like so on those days I still have space and time. I can, like yesterday being able to pick up my kids and we went to have lunch
I love that.
and being able to hop
I
back
mean,
in
how
and
many
do some
people
stuff
want
at
that,
work
right? Like
and
that freedom.
yes, just being present. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like I can have it all, right? Have the time with my kids. I can set
Mhm.
a schedule where they are, I'm, I can work when they're in school and then I
Mhm.
can be present after school.
Yeah.
And I also, as a therapist, I know that the kids they don't want to hang out with me for hours at a time. They're just
So you
okay.
gotta take them when they want you, because you don't know
Exactly.
how long that's gonna last.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. But when I was out all day, when I had another job and I was out of the
Mm.
house all the time, I didn't have the chance to always like pop in and, and be fully present. And I think also like I'm able to cultivate that life because when I left, I left. So I
Mhm.
do see people who still have ties, like they still
Yes.
have mortgages back in the
Mhm.
US. And so they
Storage
don't get to
units and things
enjoy,
like that. Yeah.
yes, right? They don't get to enjoy it as much because they're still needing to make that salary to maintain that other thing that they're holding on
Good.
to,
That's a good point.
right? So I'm fully here.
I love that. You're fully present.
Yes.
What advice do you have, to other women, particularly women with families? We love talking to women who do have, are married and have children, because it's very different when you're a single woman.
Yes.
It's a lot easier. You can just pick up and go. You and your husband seem to be on the same page. You were like, "Hey, this is awesome. Yeah, this is awesome. Let's do it." So that I mean, that's a beautiful thing. What advice do you have to women who are married, who do have children, who want to do something similar, but they can't figure out like what to do or what the first steps are? What would you tell them?
I want to add into that. Do you feel like moving has also increased your intimacy or connection to your husband as well?
Mm,
So I'll answer your question first, Jessica. I think we definitely have more time together. So we definitely have more time for connection, you know, whether it's taking a couple of hours and just being like, hey, we're just going to go to the beach and we're going to hang out and we're going to
mm,
do stuff. I had to say, like, the kids are always here now, but but we can make time. We definitely, but what we have is more time and more flexibility to
Yeah.
take pockets of time to be able to be together and to be in connection. And so enable you to answer your question about my advice to women is just like step outside of the fear, like learn and explore for yourselves, recognize that there is so much more out there, right? And learning and experiencing it for yourself is going to be like so liberating,
Yeah.
because if I were to just go on the idea of Mexico from when I've been here on vacations before, not to Tulum specifically, but to other parts of Mexico, or what I read in media, then I wouldn't have made that leap.
Mm.
Recognizing that, like, you can find peace, you can find ease. Like, we are deserving of softness. Like, my mantra for the year has been like, I was not born to suffer. And by any means necessary, I am going to find the path that allows me to live this life. I
Uh-oh.
know about. If I have past lives or I have future lives coming up to me, I have no clue. But this one, I'm going to live it fully and
Yeah.
enjoy it and not be, caught up in worrying about the day to day. And there's no going back for me. Like, folks are always like, is Mexico it for you? I'm like, I don't know, but I can tell you, America is not it.
Mm.
That even if
So
Mexico doesn't work out, I
you're
am
gonna go
not going
somewhere else. I mean, and that's interesting. Jessica and I were talking about that, right? Like the majority, no, I can't even say the majority, probably every woman that we've talked to has said, America ain't it no more. Even if they're back in America, they're still constantly traveling or looking for the next adventure. And so once you do make that leap and move, more than likely you don't come back permanently. You will end up somewhere, either where you are or somewhere else.
Yeah. So I want to make the segue into our photos as we kind of close out. And you can just kind of tell us what we're looking at here.
Let's see. So I think those two, the two ones are like my sunset pictures from my roof. Okay, no, the top one with all the colors, that's like they're looking at the sunset from like the roof of my house. And the other one, I believe was like I love to go to the beach and be outdoors during the full moon. And so this year, my birthday was on a night of a full moon, and so we went out for dinner, and it was cloudy, but I was like, I'm gonna be outside anyway. And then it's like, it's like I'm always in awe of nature. And I'm not like a nature girl. You're not gonna catch me hiking or doing any of the things, right? I like nature, like on a beach, on my roof,
That's
looking
me.
at.
I'm like, don't tell me don't camp. I don't camp. Sorry.
Yes, but I love being outdoors, and so this is again just as a picture of one of my, from one of my favorite beach clubs in Panamera. Just hanging out with friends one afternoon, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is beautiful, and I
like, can you believe I'm living this?
Exactly. Well, like, yes, that is literally something that I say to my friends and my husband all the time. We're like, this is our life. This is not our vacation. This is our life. Yeah.
That's so dope.
And so, yeah,
that was so
one over there. That's Chichen Itza, which is one of like the pyramids in this area. Which, okay, I'm going to nerd out on y'all for a minute because Tulum has an archaeological site. Right? They call it the Tulum ruins. And there's another one in Koba, and then there's Chichen Itza.
Yeah.
And they are actually built to be in alignment with Orion's belt, with the one in Tulum built to be able to capture the light of the sunrise. The one in Koba is built, the main temple has the opening to capture the light from high noon, and Chichen Itza has the one to be able to capture the different lights from sunset. So
I did not know that. We were supposed to go to Chichen Itza, and I just didn't feel like making that whole trip and spending a
yeah,
whole day. I was like, I'd just rather be on the beach.
it's
So we
amazing.
didn't go.
It's amazing. But yes, I've been enjoying and like learning about Mayan culture.
That's yeah.
Um, and then yeah. And then the other one, that one in the middle is just a random picture of just, again, like I
How's
said,
the
I have
traffic?
thousands. That was in my car. And I'm like, again, just being in awe of just not having tall buildings and everything blocking, just seeing the
Mm.
beauty of sunsets. And so I take a lot of sunset pictures. I don't get up for the sunrises, but I have a lot of sunset pictures.
I'm the same. Yeah. How was the traffic there, and how's driving there?
So I lived in New York for 10 years, so driving is easy peasy. I would say like driving can be nerve-wracking though, because scooters and bicycles and pedestrians, like there's no bike lane. And so folks just do what they want to do. You'll
They
see the
just
bikes
jump
and the
out.
scooters. Yeah, the bikes, the cyclists and the scooters, they use the road like their cars. So you've got to really be mindful of that. But I think once you kind of get the hang of it, like for me, like the first 2 weeks, I was nervous about driving, but then once I did it, I was like, okay, I'm good. Yeah.
You adapt.
So
Awesome. This
yeah,
has been awesome. Well, thank you so much for the pictures. I hope you all listening are able to hop on and see the beautiful pictures. If you all have any questions or comments, please, put it in the chat. Like I said, we'll definitely catch you all who are watching on the replay, certainly answer your questions. I think this has been, phenomenal again for women with families. You can do this too. It's not, oh my God, I have a family. Oh my God, I'm married. I can't do this. Or like, you were saying, Sonia, like, oh, when I retire, like, no, what's stopping you from actually doing it now? If this is what you
yeah,
want now, you can do
yeah,
it now.
absolutely. And it's really is just kind of like, I mean, I know it's cliche to say it, but like stepping out of the matrix and looking at all the different possibilities, because there are so many different possibilities, right?
Yeah.
And we've only, at least for me at the time, I knew only one. And I knew I wanted to leave for a long time, but I felt like I had to do it in this way. And it was so hard. Like, even as I was building my private practice, like doing that while still having this high demanding job, because that security
Uh-oh.
felt so good. Right. And it really was about being able to trust in myself, just trusting
Yeah.
myself that I can do this and I can create the magic that I want in my life. And yeah, and know that you don't have to do it alone. Like if you decide that you want to come to Tulum, you come to Tulum, look up X Clubhouse. You are going to find a home there. You are going to find some welcoming arms. Like, there are people here who are like, and even if you're a temporary traveler, right? Like I know when folks think of Tulum, they think of all the parties and they connect
Mhm.
group, and which is fine. There's a Black in Tulum travel like group that helps, and they have events. But if you're looking and you're like, okay, I really want to see what life is like here to live here, stop by X Clubhouse at the Panoramic Hotel. You are going to find all the support that you need. And I think on their Instagram page that they have like a little migration Mondays, with one of the sisters down here, and she talks and she helps people to make that move. So yeah.
Thank you for
I
that. I think
love that. Migration Mondays. I love it.
listen, we receive. They ready for us. They like, look at here. we done left the matrix. We want you too. You got a way out if you want it.
We want all the sisters to feel the joy like that we deserve.
Yes.
Right? We want all the sisters to feel that ease and joy that we deserve, and just the sisterhood that is free of the stress and angst.
Right. So I have two parting questions. First one is, do you have a maid and folks that come and massage you and do all the things? Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, yeah, I remember one person in Mexico, she was like, oh yeah, I get 2 massages a week. I'm like, I mean, dang, one, can I just get that?
Yes, yes. So I do have someone. I do. I mean, right now I only have someone part time because that is the one thing I have to say was kind of I don't want to say disappointing because it just sounds very elitist, but because I was expecting to be able to come and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have a chef, I'm gonna have a man, I'm gonna have all
Mhm.
of this stuff. But the I find it challenge I've been finding the work ethic to be super challenging,
Mm.
right?
Laid back.
Yes. So I've been finding the work ethics to be a bit challenging in terms of, and of just being able to, for folks to honor their commitments in a
Yeah.
way that makes sense. Like so recently, like I have a new lady I'm trying out because the woman that I had before was like started cutting her hours, but was not happy when I'm like, okay, we can do that, but I'm gonna cut your pay.
Right.
you
I
know?
mean, who thought? Thank you for saying it because I think people want to know the real. And I have a client, one of my coaching clients, and who moved to Puerto Rico. Same thing, very difficult in finding really good help, and she's not doing too bad for herself, and so people expect that she'll just pay well and they don't have to do well.
Yes.
And so that can be a real thing in some areas for sure. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no, and I try to be intentional, right? While I know that labor is cheaper here, I also understand like the landscape. So
Mhm.
I pay above what the government recommends to
And
pay.
that's what she said. She's like, I'm
What
paying
I
good money
do,
and I can't.
right? Because it's still a savings for what I used to pay back in Florida,
Yeah.
you know? So yes. I do need to get on that massages every couple of weeks kind of a thing. But yes, you can definitely find people who will come to the house and give you a great rub down. And not just a great rub down, but you're going to find people who are going to put some energy in it. They're going to put some Reiki in it. They're going to put some
Hey,
spirituality in it. Yes. They're going to put
love
all
it.
the healing energies.
Love it. Well, Jessica, you're on your way to Mexico. Did you figure out what part you going to? You'll be there. She
I'm
don't
just
care. She's
showing
like,
up.
she's going.
Tulum. Tulum.
Right. Well, I got to do baby steps, baby steps. So,
No, I
um,
mean, it's so, but I love that. Like, well, Jessica, you'll tell us about it and take pictures and stuff when you go. But no, when I was in, it was outside of Cancun, not Cancun. I can't even remember. And we were at a resort, but I do remember having that same feeling. It was during the kind of the tail end of the
Mhm.
pandemic, and I remember being there and I was like, oh my god, I could live like this. Like I could easily do it. And I love that Mexico offers that because for a lot of the reasons you said, it's close to the US. Like for me it's like a 2-hour flight. um and it just feels easier. The cost of living is definitely cheaper. I mean, when I pay for stuff, I'm like, God, I can't believe this is costing me so much for this. But the cost of living, the food, the people, so a lot of the same reasons. So I love that, and I know Jessica was
Mhm.
like, look, I'm finally gonna make it to Mexico, and maybe you right over in California, so you could just hop on over.
Hop on over. Yes.
well, that's why I asked about the maid situation and the massage. Because I'm like, why am I allowing my kids to like endure, all of these things? It's like it's at this point, it's just unnecessary. Like, oh, you want to act crazy? Okay, bye, bye. Like, you go ahead and you stay over there. Because why am I dealing with this right now? Why?
Yes.
And they don't have to either. And I want them to know that they don't have to. Now I will tell somebody in a minute I ain't got to deal with your mess, but it's a totally different thing to just remove yourself out of the environment completely and just
Yes.
say, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
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 So my last question is, if there was one word that can describe the feeling that you feel now that you've left, what would that one word be?
Hmm. Whole.
Mm.
Feeling whole. Feeling like that I don't have to split myself into pieces and only give a little bit to this. Like I can seamlessly move through all my roles as mom, wife, businesswoman, and girl who wants to sit on the sofa and watch Christmas movies
Oh,
and have time for all of that. I'm not wishing for any more days, and that's okay. Just yeah, being whole.
Yeah, I
beautiful.
love it.
I think that's a great note to leave it on, being whole, because ultimately, when we talk about the soft life and all of that, that's really what it's about. When we talk about
Yeah.
healing, that's what it's about. And that's, what I always say, that I help my clients from whole to wholeness.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's what we want, even if we're not aware of it. So I think that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Sonia, for sharing your experience and
Oh,
your
thank you, Louise,
family
for
and
having me.
your
The
adventures.
pictures, the element.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. And thank you all so much for watching. We appreciate you. And yeah, looking forward to our next adventure here. But until then, we wish you peace, blessings, and we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.